Good morning. Good morning. It's afternoon. It's afternoon here on the East Coast in New York, and to my Boston, Massachusetts, Norfolk County friends in Canton, hello and good afternoon. Today is Sunday, September 29th of 2024, and thank you so much for choosing to spend part of your Sunday with me. We first of all, where are my college football fans in the chat? Did anybody watch Colorado game yesterday? Wow, just wow. My alma mater, CU, kicked some Florida butt yesterday. I think the final score of that game was 48-21 against UCF. And if you know, you know, if you watched that game, it was really unbelievable. It's, when I graduated from CU, the Buffs were not a great team, although we did go to the Orange Bowl like in the early 90s. So we had that. And then ever since then, I've been here in New York and I've never been able to watch my team because it's always been on some rando channel that nobody has, like a Pac 12 channel, Pac 10 channel. Bars don't even have it here on the East Coast. So I never got to watch any of the games. And now all the games are on network television and it's so exciting. And what an amazing game that was. So I put some go Buffs in the chat. We have some amazing emojis for the members here. We also, what I thought was very interesting, because we have that puffy coat from the Karen Reed trial, it's also such a great emoji for Puff Daddy. I love how we can reuse these emojis for so many different things. Good morning. Good morning. Wait for some more people to get in here. The Patriots are playing at what? 4:05 and the Jets at 1. So I figured we'd schedule this for 12:15 because not everyone's into football, but some people are. So I thought we'd get in here and talk about all the bombshells that we didn't get to hear about on Thursday when we covered Aiden Kearney, aka Turtleboy's hearing in Norfolk Superior. And now that my friend and frequent guest, attorney Mark Bederow, fellow New York attorney, is on the case, I wanted to watch that hearing live with you. The Eagles play at 1. Great. Chiefs and Chargers at 4:20. That was funny. Yesterday, the Colorado game was in Florida, in Orlando. So it was supposed to start at, I think, I forget what time, 1:30 maybe. And the kickoff was pushed to 4:20. Go figure. My Boulder friends know. You know, you know. So Mark Bederow is now on the defense team for Aiden Kearney, aka Turtleboy, in his fight against felony witness intimidation charges in Norfolk County, Massachusetts. And while I have not covered this case from the beginning, Aiden Kearney's case, as you know, I'm going to rely on some of you in the chat to help me fill in some of the blanks. For example, who is Janelle Webb? Can anybody tell me who Janelle Webb is? He's accused of conspiring with someone who I think is named Janelle Webb against some of these witnesses in the Karen Reed case. Yep. Bradel and Bederow, First Amendment protectors. The First Amendment is not apparently alive and well in Massachusetts, as many of you know. Janelle Webb is the Avon dispatcher. Okay. Okay. We can fill that in later. The Thursday hearing had to do with, I don't think they've all been consolidated, right? So the Thursday hearing had to do with the charges against Aiden Kearney for the witness Lindsay Gaetani, who I believe was Aiden's a former, let's say, paramour, girlfriend of Aiden. The 911 dispatcher who looked up a plate for Aiden. Okay. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. So you may recall when we covered the hearing on Thursday in front of Judge Katie Rayburn, we only had a camera angle on the judge. We could not see Tim Bradel or Mark Bederow speaking or anybody else in the courtroom. We couldn't see Aiden. We couldn't see who was there. But I think a lot of you actually were in the courtroom, yeah? So you were there. And so much of that conference happened at Sidebah. So we couldn't hear what was going on. And a lot of you thought or had been told that there were a lot of bombshells that were going to drop at that hearing. And we couldn't hear them because apparently all the bombshells were dropped at Sidebah. But now some documents have been released. They had been impounded by the defense team as a courtesy Now they've been released, and we're going to take a look at them. So we're going to try and glean some things about what happened at Sidebah. And we are going to talk about them and what the ramifications were. And listen, thanks for liking the flowers. I had a party last week. I bought a whole bunch of flowers, and I'm like, I'll just put them behind me. Thank you for that. For those of you who have Lidl, do you guys have Lidl near you? Lidl. It's like I don't know, like a discount supermarket. They have the best cut flowers, like for $7.99, like dozen roses, $7.99. So any of you who are in trouble, need to go out and get your person or your lady roses, go over to Lidl, grab yourself some roses for $8.99 or $7.99. I think a dozen. They're really nice and they last a long time, as you can see from the white and pink ones behind me. Hey Baker boys and girls. And muffins? What do you guys call muffins? Muffin time? You're at Lidl right now? Get some cut flowers. Danielle, get some cut flowers. Also, they have the best coffee creamer there. Yeah, I'm delaying, but I'm just waiting for some peeps to come in. Right. So, Lauren, I have not followed Turtleboy's case either. And I can't really make any comparison between Lindsay and Amber Heard because that could be defamatory. And I'm not going to get into anything defamatory today. And neither are you, my friends in the chat. All we're going to do is look at the documents. We're going to look at the actual documents and the actual indictments. And we're going to find out that Aiden Kearney, who some may not call a journalist, but really there's no statutory definition of journalist. So I ask you, what is the definition of journalist? I think that he may make a lot more money than a lot of beat reporters for, let's say, the Boston Globe and the Boston Herald. So is it about who makes more money? He's certainly written a lot more articles than some of the beat reporters for the Boston Herald or the Boston Globe or the New York Times or the New York Post or, any publication that is considered mainstream media. So what makes those people journalists and not someone like Aiden Kearney, who really brought so much attention to the Karen Reed case that it is now an international story? And for those of you who are watching internationally, tell us where you're watching from, because the world really is watching. It's not just a Massachusetts story anymore. He's a recognized journalist through the SJC in Massachusetts. But, I watched something last night on his channel for a little bit. There was a journalist on his channel last night who's, I don't know, I'm not familiar with him. He's a podcaster of some sort. And he made some comment like, well, we're not really like the same kind of journalist. And I'm thinking like, what makes a journalist? Mainstream media is pretty much dead right now. Independent media is kind of where it's at. A lot of you don't even watch the news anymore. You get your news from YouTube. That's why it's important for me to go by documents, not spread a whole bunch of misinformation. Thank you, James Lynch. A journalist is anyone who disseminates information to the public. But a lot of people don't see it that way for some reason. He is an award-winning journalist, and he's been long before the Karen Reed trial. He's covered a lot of other things. He's exposed a lot of other things in Massachusetts. It's a members only for a lot of those emojis. It's like one of the perks that comes along with being a member. So I'm not encouraging anyone to have to be a member, but you do get those special emojis. So first of all, let's start off with, because there's just so much to cover here. And I like to start I don't want to start in the middle. I want to kind of start at the beginning. So we're going to take a look at the indictment, the actual indictment against Aiden Kearney, on behalf of the victim in this particular case is Lindsay Gattani. So let's take a look at the actual indictment so that you guys can get a better understanding of what he's doing there. So this, my friends, is the indictment that was handed down against Aiden Kearney on the 4th day of February 2024 by a grand jury. If the state of Massachusetts spent as much time investigating the murder of Boston police officer John O'Keefe as they have spent investigating Aiden Kearney, maybe we'd actually find out what really happened to Officer John O'Keefe. I'm just saying, that's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. The jurors for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts on their oath present that Aiden Timothy Kearney of Holden in the county of Worcester on or about December 23rd of 2023 at Medfield in the county of Norfolk. Okay, so this was 2 days before Christmas of 2023. Here's the charge: that the defendant willfully, either directly or indirectly, did attempt or cause physical, emotional, or economic injury to, or intimidate or harass another person, to wit, Lindsay Gaetani, who is A, a witness or potential witness, or D, a family member of a person described in this section, with the intent to, or with reckless disregard for the fact that it may, one, impede, obstruct, delay, prevent, or otherwise interfere with a criminal investigation at any stage, a grand jury proceeding, a motion hearing, a trial, or other criminal proceeding of any type, in violation of Massachusetts General Laws, Section 268, Section 13B, which we're going to take a look at in a second. Against the peace of said Commonwealth, and contrary to the form of the statute in such case made and provided, a true bill signed by the foreman of the grand jury and also scribbled by a special assistant district attorney of Norfolk County. I like continuous scroll, please. Thank you very much. Intimidation. So there's intimidation. There's a case number, Commonwealth versus Aiden Timothy Kearney, dated February 20th of 2020, February 2, 22, 24 in Medfield. 222. Isn't that the same day that Karen Reed was indicted? 222, or was it 22? There's a lot of twos in there. I don't know who's into numerology. 222, 24. Interesting. Hey, Travis, this is going to be unpopular, but you can't have a journalist or a layperson confronting potential witnesses in a case. There's a line. What that line is should be what's at issue. Yeah, I'm not saying I agree with his methods or I agree with, his language or I agree with the things that he says on his show, but I don't think my question and what I was referring to right there was, what is a journalist and what is not. So I'm going to look at the statute and we're going to see that Aiden Kearney is potentially facing more time in prison than P. Diddy. So give me some puffy jackets members in the chat. Because as of right now, P. Diddy's looking at something like 15 to life. And when you see that each one of these witness intimidation charges carries a potential 10-year prison sentence, I'm going to tell you that I think this witness intimidation statute in Massachusetts is ridiculous, overbroad. And it's unlike any other witness intimidation statute throughout the county. So in any event, the second charge here is that on the fourth Thursday of February of 2024, the jurors for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts on their oath present that Aiden Timothy Kearney of Holden in the county of Worcester on or about December 23rd, 2023 at Medfield in the county of Norfolk, that the defendant did willfully commit an interception of any wire or oral communication of Lindsay Gaetani in violation of Massachusetts General Law, Section 272, Section 99. Against the peace of said Commonwealth and contrary to the form of the statute in such case made and provided, signed by the foreman of the grand jury and the special assistant district attorney for Norfolk County. Again, dated 2/22/24. This charge is interception of wire and oral communication. Now, these are the charges against Lindsay Gaetani. Also, keep in mind that there are other witness intimidation charges for which he was indicted in December of 2023 against the following. I had to make a list because it was so long. Chris Albert, Juliana Nagel, Colin Albert, Michael Proctor, Elizabeth Proctor, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Yuri Buchanek. And those are witness intimidation charges. Then there are some other charges in which he allegedly conspired to intimidate witnesses with Janelle Webb, who you guys told me was that dispatcher, the 911 who ran a plate for him apparently, and those charges are for victims Jennifer McCabe, Elizabeth Proctor, and Michael Proctor. And then there were some other, let me see that other indictment. Some other charges, and I unfortunately didn't write it down. Section 13A, Massachusetts General Law against Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert, Matthew McCabe, Michael Proctor, and Juliana Nagel. Each of these charges carries up to a 10-year sentence. So when you add all of these up, it's life in prison, basically. Life in prison for, a guy who's doing investigating. It's a lot of intimidated police officers. Yeah. And I think if it's a police officer, it's extra years on top of it. She ran Jen McCabe's for her. Allegedly. She allegedly ran Jen McCabe's plate for when her car was at Proctor's house. Okay. Okay. Thanks, you guys. Rights On says weaponizing statutes and manufacturing crimes against journalists to silence them is happening all across America. And that is what a lot of people think. That these charges were brought against Aidan Kearney for the sole purpose of silencing him with respect to his views, theories, thoughts, and opinions on the Karen Read case. And therefore, they have now become inextricably intertwined. They just are. They just are. A lot of things in Norfolk County and Canton just are. They just are, right? Things just reveal themselves and appear. And that's what happens in Norfolk County. That's what happens in Canton, you guys. It just does. So the next thing I want to look at with you is the actual witness intimidation statute itself. If I can figure out where I put it. Oh, yes, here it is. And the font is small, so I'm going to try and enlarge it for you. So let us now take a look at the intimidation witnesses statute in the state of Massachusetts, under which Aidan Kearney is charged. And for the purposes of today's stream, we are just going to be talking about the charges against Aidan Kearney for alleged victim, Lindsay Gattani. This is the Massachusetts General Law section, or I got to enlarge this, sorry. Let me just, give me a second. 268, section 13B. And it is entitled Intimidation of Witnesses, Jurors, and Persons Furnishing Information in Connection with Criminal Proceedings. And we're going to read it together because it's not that long. And I think it's important that we all understand what the law is and what Aidan Kearney is charged with violating. And that is this law that became effective on April 13th of 2018. A, as used in this section, the following words shall have the following meanings unless the context clearly requires otherwise. Investigator, an individual or group of individuals lawfully authorized by a department or agency of the federal government or any political subdivision thereof, or a department or agency of the Commonwealth or any political subdivision thereof to conduct or engage in an investigation of, prosecution for, or defense of a violation of the laws of the United States or of the Commonwealth in the course of such individuals or groups' official duties. The definition of harass: to engage in an act directed at a specific person or group of persons that seriously alarms or annoys such person or group of persons and would cause a reasonable person or group of persons to suffer substantial emotional distress, including, but not limited to, an act conducted by mail or by use of a telephonic or telecommunication device or electronic communication device, including, but not limited to, a device that transfers signs, signals, writing, images, sounds, data, or intelligence of any nature transmitted in whole or part by a wire, radio, electromagnetic, photoelectronic, or photo-optical system, including but not limited to electronic mail, internet communications, instant messages, and facsimile communications. For those of you who still have a fax machine. B. So all you need to show here really is, and this is what is unusual about this statute as compared to other states. It's a question of fact, obviously. What would cause a reasonable person to suffer substantial emotional distress, right? So every case is different. Every case will stand on its own facts. And that's what the Commonwealth is going to have to prove here. How are they going to prove that? Well, they're going to have to call in each and every one of those alleged victims as witnesses. So, in many respects, if this case gets to trial, it could be far more exciting, let's say, and streamlined than the Karen Reed trial was, because it's all the same players who are now going to have to get up and testify as victims. Chris Albert, Juliana Nagel, Colin Albert, Michael Proctor, Elizabeth Proctor, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Yuri Buchanan, Brian Albert. They're all going to have to get up and testify as witnesses. I don't know. I guess sometimes you better want what you wish for, right? What had happened was they thought that he would, shut up, go home, take a play, something. And then what had happened was he didn't. So he was on probation. I believe you guys can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, for all of these charges after he bailed out, right? And then something happened on December 23rd of 2023 that they called a violation of his probation, and he did 60 days in jail. 60 days in jail rather than take a plea. They originally sentenced him to 90, but I think they found out that the 90 wasn't constitutional or wasn't allowed by statute, and so they wound up letting him out of jail after 60 days. Okay. Section B. Whoever willfully, either directly or indirectly, Roman little 1, threatens, attempts, or causes physical, emotional, or economic injury or property damage to, conveys the gift, offer, or promise of anything of value to, or misleads, intimidates, or harasses another person who is A, a witness or potential witness, B, a person who is or was aware of information, records, documents, or objects that relate to a violation of a criminal law or a violation of conditions of probation, parole, bail, or other court order. C, a judge, juror, grand juror, attorney, victim witness advocate, police officer, correction officer, federal agent, investigator, clerk, court officer, court reporter, court interpreter, probation officer, or parole officer. D, person who was or is attending, or a person who has made known an intention to attend a proceeding described in this section. Or E, a family member of a person described in this section. To me, this is a little overbroad. To me, that's my legal opinion. This is a very, very broad statute. I don't know why this was enacted in 2018. I don't know the reasoning behind it. I don't know what happened in 2018 that spurred the need for this witness intimidation statute to be so overly broad, but it must have been something, right? With the intent to, or with reckless disregard for the fact that it may, 1, impede, obstruct, delay, prevent, or otherwise interfere with a criminal investigation at any stage, a grand jury proceeding, a dangerousness hearing, a motion hearing, a trial or other criminal proceeding of any type, or a parole hearing, parole violation proceeding, or probation violation proceeding, or an administrative hearing or a probate or family court proceeding, juvenile proceeding, housing proceeding, land proceeding, clerk's hearing, court ordered mediation, or any other civil proceeding of any type. Or two, punish, harm, or otherwise retaliate against any such person described in this section for such person or such person's family members' participation in any of the proceedings described in this section shall be punished by imprisonment in the state prison for not more than 10 years, or by imprisonment in the house of correction for not more than 2.5 years, or by a fine of not less than $1,000 or more than $5,000, or by both such fine and imprisonment, period. If the proceeding in which the misconduct is directed at is the investigation or prosecution of a crime punishable by life imprisonment, or the parole of a person convicted of a crime punishable by life imprisonment, such person shall be punished by imprisonment in the state prison for not more than 20 years, or by imprisonment in the house of corrections for not more than 2.5 years, or by a fine of not more than $10,000, or by both such fine and imprisonment. That is the statute under which Aiden Kearney, aka Turtleboy, is charged in this case. Now, let us go to the next thing, which is the unimpounded letters from our friend Mark Bederow, attorney Mark Bederow, to Robert Cosgrove, who has been stepping in as the special prosecutor in this case since the original special prosecutor in this case, Ken Melo, has been taken ill. He's taken ill, and I am not sure why, honestly. If anybody can tell me, they appointed this Ken Melo fellow, Melo, they call him Melo, yeah. Why they had appointed Ken Melo in the first place, I'm assuming it's because clearly District Attorney Michael Marcy had a conflict, perhaps, and therefore a special prosecutor, as such, was appointed in the Aiden Kearney case. So that's interesting. Which begs another question now that we go back to that witness intimidation statute, offering someone a gift, right? And we watched the Karen Reed trial together, and we saw some receipts. We saw some text messages of somebody saying, tell your brother I want to get him a gift when this is all over. That was the same day, those text messages, as Karen Reed's arraignment in court. Yeah. Let your brother know I want to get him a gift when this is all over. How is that not a violation of this statute? There are a couple of other examples that I could think of that happened during the Karen Reed trial that I could point out, could perhaps be a violation of this statute. But it seems like, to the outside observer, someone such as me, an attorney with over 30 years experience in New York State and federal courts, that the state of Massachusetts or the county of Norfolk, let's say, chooses to selectively prosecute this law. Ah, yes, look at that. We think so much I like selective prosecution. Yes. Yeah. So here's a letter on September 12th, which is just, my gosh, September's almost over. It's the 29th today. Mark Bederow sent to Mr. Cosgrove, Mr. Melo, special assistant district attorneys regarding this case. Dear Messrs. Cosgrove and Melo. Oh, I love that attorney Mark Bederow is a wordsmith. For those of you who don't know, this is the plural of Mr. informal letter writing, Messrs. Cosgrove and Melo. My favorite part of everything that we read together legally as documents is the footnotes. So I'm going to read the footnotes to you. I'm not going to skip over the footnotes. So we're going to stop and we're going to read the footnotes, and you're going to like it. This letter, footnote number 1, this letter is submitted under preliminary impoundment, considering its reference to impounded Verizon records recently reviewed by defense counsel. So right away, you're going to see that the defense attorneys are voluntarily impounding things as a courtesy. As a courtesy, without even being forced to or required to. They did it as a courtesy. This letter serves as a specific request under Brady v. Maryland, Biglio versus the United States, Graham, the district attorney for Hampton District, and Rule 14 of the Massachusetts, or MRCP, as I'm going to call it from now on, because my voice is already going, for the prompt disclosure of A, an unaltered and complete extraction report from the cellular phone Lindsay Gattani provided to Massachusetts State Police MSP Detective Lieutenant DL. I was wondering what DL meant. This, for me, is an actual real reaction because I have not read this yet. I didn't watch anybody's show on it who covered it last night in the middle of the night. Some of you, I see Glare is here, like a midnight show. You guys are hardcore. I didn't watch it because I wanted to give you my own real reaction. DL, I was like, what is that, down low? But no, it's Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully and Trooper Nicholas Guarino, aka we called him Trooperino, on or about January 10th of 2024. B, any information in the possession, custody, or control of the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office and or the Special Assistant District Attorneys assigned to aid in Kearney's matters, the Commonwealth, that tends to impair the credibility of any possible witness against Mr. Kearney, including but not limited to Juliana Nagel, Matthew McCabe, Jennifer McCabe, Chris Albert, Colin Albert, Elizabeth Proctor, Brian Albert, Ms. Gaetani, MSP Trooper Michael Proctor, Sergeant Yuri Buchanek, DL Tully, and Trooperino Guarino, including but not limited to evidence related to any investigations into any witnesses conducted by the U.S. Attorney's Office. We're going to go back to that footnote in a second. For the District of Massachusetts, the FBI, any other federal agency, the Commonwealth, the Massachusetts Attorney General, the Massachusetts Peace Officer Standards and Training Post Commission, or any other agency or governmental body. Well, you can never tell. The sunny side of the street is dark. Name that tune. Footnote number 2 comes after the reference to Michael Proctor. Footnote number 2. Well, before I go to footnote number 2 and turn off the air conditioning, everyone, please hit the like button because it's just the nice thing to do. Even if you're hate watching, just smash that like button. That is a shakedown street. Thank you, Phoebe Bird. Yes, it is, Jason. Jason, I think, got it first. And isn't Shakedown Street kind of like appropriate for what's going on here? Isn't it? Yeah, even my mics are hot. Love that name. This is my first impression. I haven't read it yet. I had it since last night and it was long and I was tired. I was like Auntie Bev. I was tired. I'm sorry, Judge Beverly Cannoni, the Honorable Justice Beverly Cannoni. I was tired. I didn't want to read it. And I thought it'd be more fun to do a real reaction video as if I was watching like, a music video for the first time. Footnote 2. On July 22nd, 2024, less than 1 month after Trooper Proctor testified in the Commonwealth v. Karen Reed, the Commonwealth notified Reed's counsel and several other attorneys with other matters that Trooper Proctor had been suspended without pay and that he was subject of an MSP internal affairs investigation. You can't make this up. You really just can't. Oh, I can't do that because, all right, well, wait, maybe I could. Okay. They also disclosed an unofficial transcript of Trooper Michael Proctor's testimony in the Reed case. On August 13th of 2024, co-counsel Timothy Bradel sent Mr. Cosgrove an email seeking any appropriate Brady and Giglio disclosures regarding Trooper Proctor. Just to refresh your recollection, you know what a Brady violation is, right? It's when the prosecution doesn't turn over certain evidence that they're supposed to turn over, which is all evidence, whether exculpatory or not. And if you violate that as a prosecutor, you run the very harsh remedy, run the risk of the very harsh remedy of your case being dismissed outright with prejudice against the defendant. We saw that in the Alec Baldwin case in New Mexico when prosecutor, I think she was a special prosecutor too, wasn't she? Carrie Morrissey. Funny how her name's Marcy too. You can't even make this up. Carrie Morrissey decided in her infinite wisdom that there was some evidence that she was not going to turn over to the defense because in her mind, it didn't matter. It was irrelevant. And in that case, Alec Baldwin's charges were thrown right out in front of the whole world. So Brady violations are real serious. So we'll see what's going to happen with this. We have not received a response to that request. Oh, shocking. That was August 13th. So now it's been 6-7 weeks. The Commonwealth recently notified Reed's counsel that it was in possession of an extraction report from Trooper Proctor's MSP cellular phone and content from his MSP cloud account. The Commonwealth is so concerned with Trooper Proctor's dreadful credibility that on September 9th of 2024, it announced he would not be called as a prosecution witness in the Commonwealth versus Brian Walsh. Even though he's the lead MSP investigator in a horrific case against a man accused of murdering and then dismembering his wife. Bederow then comes in with the receipts of the link to the Boston Globe article. Keep in mind, too, Brian Walsh is being convicted in large part on his Google searches. His Google searches, which, were a big problem for the Commonwealth in the Karen Reed case as with regard to Jennifer McCabe's Google searches. But in the Brian Walsh case, and I said this, I've been saying this, I've been screaming into a closet since I started talking about the Karen Reed case all the way back in January of 2024. Seems like a lifetime ago. You can't use it as a shield and a sword. You can't say, well, you know what? Google searches don't really apply in the Karen Reed case. They're not accurate. Timestamps are not accurate. It's like when you reopen a window, it opens up everything before it or after it or some nonsense. And then saying Brian Walsh, well, he did Google at this specific time, before his wife went missing, what are the best states for a man to get divorced in? What's the best way to dispose of a 120-pound woman's body? If you're going to disintegrate a body, what chemicals are you supposed to use? And don't quote me on that. I'm just generalizing, but it's those types of Google searches against Brian Walsh that are the crux of their case against him because it's a no-body murder case. Okay? But I digress. C. All promises, rewards, or inducements made to any possible witnesses against Mr. Kearney. And D. A complete set of grand jury minutes and any recorded statements of witnesses who testified before the grand juries, which indicted Mr. Kearney in December of 2023 and February of 2024, for which an indictment against him and Karen Reed was unsuccessfully sought in March of 2024, and for which any other indictment was sought against Mr. Kearney and others related to his conduct. So apparently, and that is when, okay. All right. So this is when they started seizing again Karen Reed's phones, right? In 2024, before the trial. I think it was it Tully or somebody showed up at her house. One of the players in the Karen Reed case showed up at Karen Reed's house and seized her phones, right? Because they were trying to show that Aiden Kearney and Karen Reed were conspiring together to intimidate witnesses. Thank you, Will. Yep. Thank you, Will. Okay. All right. No, let's not talk about anybody's thank you Grant's pants, but I'm just going to delete that because we don't want to, speculate on anyone's paternity It's not what we're doing here, and I don't want to spread misinformation. We're going to try and be as good as we can today in the chat, right, my friends? No, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. It was Tully that showed up at her house to, okay. 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 I also write to inform you. Wait, footnote number 3. Did I skip over footnote number 3? Oh, no, that's coming up. Okay. I also write to inform you that in the event Mr. Mello does not voluntarily recuse himself from the prosecution team in compliance with Rule 3.7 of the Massachusetts Rules of Professional Conduct and Commonwealth v. Patterson, reversed on other grounds, Commonwealth v. Britt, we will seek his immediate disqualification at the September 26, 2024 appearance because he is an essential defense trial witness. Well, well, well. How often does the special prosecutor or any prosecutor become a witness in the defense's case? You know how often? Rarely. But as we were talking about that Alec Baldwin case before, Carrie Morrissey actually put herself on the stand. She put herself on the stand to talk about that alleged Brady violation. So, yeah, it happens, but not so often. Footnote number 3. This application is in addition to the grounds for recusal or disqualification stated in defense's motions and memoranda for sanctions filed on January 26, 2024, March 22nd, 2024, and August 28th of 2024. Mr. Mello has not responded to any of the prior defense motions, and he has not appeared at any of Mr. Kearney's court appearances for several months. Is he ill? Is he ill? Or is he hiding? Is he I don't know. So he hasn't been showing up to court. He hasn't responded to any of the motions. And there are deadlines for responding to motions. There just are. Usually, I mean, in New York, sometimes you only have 7 days to respond to a motion. So I don't know. Are there no such deadlines in Massachusetts? Can you just just keep not responding? Is that what goes on there? Are there any real statutory type deadlines? 7 days? Maybe in an appeal, it's 30 days, but he's been sleeping on the job. I don't know. A lot of you don't know that when you become an attorney, not only do you take the bar exam, but you also have to take a separate ethics test. And you have to pass both to become a licensed attorney, whatever state you're in. And in Massachusetts, those ethical rules are called the Massachusetts Rules of Professional Conduct. And so you must take a test and pass that before you can be admitted as an attorney. And ethical violations are very serious. They come in front of, we have a grievance committee in New York, and in Massachusetts, I'm not sure what they have, maybe something like a board of bar overseers or something. I'm not sure. But it's serious when you get an allegation like that and you have to drop everything and respond to it. And it's real. I mean, attorneys can get sanctioned publicly. They can get suspended. They can get disbarred. Those are the ramifications for violating ethical rules if it's a serious enough and intentional enough and willful enough violation. The worst of which is stealing client money out of your escrow account. That'll get you. That'll get you every time. In some states, if you're convicted of a felony, that's also an automatic suspension. So I'm not up on my Massachusetts rules of criminal procedure or ethical rules, but I will tell you that it's a big deal. Starting page 4, the extraction report from Ms. Gattani's cellular phone. In April 2024, Mr. Mello provided the defense with an extraction report from Ms. Gattani's cellular phone. On July 11th of 2024, after the defense expressed concerns about the completeness of the report, Mr. Cosgrove assured the court and defense that whatever the communications are, they are all turned over. However, notwithstanding Ms. Gattani's acknowledgement that she communicated via text message with DL Tully and Mr. Mello and then deleted the messages, the extraction report does not contain any text messages between and among Ms. Gattani, DL Tully, and Mr. Mello, except for one Ms. Gattani sent to Tully at 10:48 p.m. on December 23rd, 2023. So remember, that's the same night Aiden Kearney's alleged to have committed this act leading to these charges. This was the context of the text message. So I highlighted some of this, but then I didn't get through the whole thing. So that's right. I did read some of it, but not the whole thing, and definitely not the second letter. Ken said to call you, but I can't now. Mr. Kearney is knocking on the bathroom door. I have to go back out. Please don't text or call, and tell Ken not to because he wants to see my phone. I'm deleting our calls and texts right now. Don't respond until you hear from me. Okay. So what it seems like from reading this text message is that Lindsay is in the bathroom. Aiden's knocking on the door. And she's texting Tully 10:48 p.m. on that same evening, saying she's going to delete her calls and texts. Tell Ken not to call, meaning Ken Melo, the special prosecutor. This is not good. Because what it looks like may be happening here is that perhaps Tully, Melo, and Gattani are in some sort of agreement to perhaps conspire to do something. We don't know what, but that's the appearance, right? In my opinion. Nor does the extraction report provided to the defense include a media file Leah Genduso sent to Ms. Gattani during a text message exchange a few weeks prior to Mr. Kearney's arrest. I don't know who Leah Genduso is, but maybe they'll tell us. This media file appears to have played a significant role in Ms. Gattani's effort to have Mr. Melo make her a witness against Mr. Kearney. Huh. Okay, so just to recap a little bit. Before this time, December of 2023, Kearney was charged with, and said it, not me. Kearney was charged with witness intimidation against all of those other people, right? Many of them, all of them were witnesses in the Karen Reed case. All of them. Lindsay Gattani was not. She was, I believe, dating Aiden at the time or whatever. They were in a relationship. I don't really know if it was complicated. I don't really know. But all of the other people that he already been charged with, I'm just looking at my message again on my notes, except Elizabeth Proctor. I think Elizabeth Proctor is the only one who did not testify at the trial of Karen Reed. Everyone else did. So somehow, for some reason, I'm not sure, they're trying to get Lindsay Gattani involved in the Aiden Kearney case. It seems. Thank you, Tear Dad. Leah Genduso is a disgraced former Massachusetts state trooper who quit when Turtleboy exposed her involvement with a gang that sold drugs. Is that, yeah? Totally corrupt MSP trooper, dishonorably discharged from MSP. I'm just going to point out that my viewers' opinions are not necessarily my opinions. And therefore, if she was dishonorably discharged, that's a fact. Brinley says Turtleboy blew the lid off the drug connection of the former female MSP. And this was all before the Karen Reed case. So perhaps she's got beef with Aiden, yeah? She got fired from the MSP. Why can't the MSP just stay out of trouble? She was in Proctor's class at MSP. Family, the roots of the family tree in Canton, pretty freaking twisted. Okay. That is a fact. Okay, and this was in 2018. Thank you. You guys are so collaborative here. But if I put up anything that is misinformation, please someone tell me. Massachusetts, according to Massachusetts State Live, State Police Trooper Leah Genduso was resigned after an internal affairs investigation found that she did not disclose her past involvement with a drug, I think you meant drug gang, and that you guys are saying is 2018, yeah? She has beef, they have beef, right? Okay. Right. Odor of mendacity, the judge stated. Okay. All right. This is the smartest chat on YouTube. And you guys know, because you guys have been following this so much more closely than I have. So thank you for that. Alyssa puts it a little more succinctly. Genduso got fired. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Genduso got fired from MSP because she didn't tell them about her involvement in a drug deal that Aiden exposed. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. But it was in 2018, yeah? Oh, so maybe that's why they enacted this stage. Oh, Elf coming in with the ideas. Maybe that's why they enacted this statute in 2018. Wow. Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks, guys. On December 9th of 2023, Ms. Gattani reached out to Ms. Genduso specifically because she knew Ms. Genduso despised Mr. Kearney. Well, there it is. All I had to do was read another sentence. Okay, so this is December 9th, and this incident occurred allegedly on December 23rd. So that's a couple weeks before. Now there's some planning. Number 4, Ms. Genduso was an MSP trooper who resigned in 2018. It was right here. But you know what? I love when you guys participate. It's like the whole class is like raising hands, participating. Thank you. Ms. Genduso was an MSP trooper who resigned in 2018 after an internal affairs investigation concluded that she concealed her prior involvement with a drug dealing operation. Mr. Kearney's reporting initially drew attention to this issue. There's the receipt right there. There's the article. Around the same time, Ms. Gaetani began communicating regularly with Catherine Peter, another individual she knew was an outspoken enemy of Mr. Kearney, aka Masshole Mafia, Mafia Masshole, something like that, in addition to very many other accounts on the cesspool of Twitter, and also I think on YouTube. Because I think she posted a lot of what she thought were like cute videos about me against me when I started talking about this case. Let me just see if there's any questions here that are relevant to what we're talking about right now. It's all just nice comments. I appreciate you guys so much. On the evening of December 11th, 2023, 2 weeks before Mr. Kearney's arrest for allegedly intimidating, quote, witness Gaetani, Ms. Genduso and Ms. Gaetani engaged in the following text exchange. Oh, Bederow coming in with receipts. Footnote 5, for brevity purposes, I have included only the portion of the text exchange relevant to the demands included in this letter. Ms. Genduso at 8:30, 57 seconds. I think by going to Melo and becoming a part of this on a DL will inevitably help me. Wait, I'm going to start again. I think that by going to Melo and becoming a part of this on a DL will inevitably help be another stepping stool into getting Mr. Kearney, in parentheses, put away for a substantial period of time. Aiden's going to have a big reality check very soon and will be in jail before the summer. I really stand fast to that. Ms. Genduso, all in caps. Holy crap. I just thought of something. OMG, OMG, OMG. Then at 8:50 and 20 seconds, Ms. Genduso sends a media file to Ms. Gaetani. Now the defense team of Bederow and Bradel are trying to get that media file because, surprise, surprise, it wasn't turned over. Ms. Gaetani, 3 minutes later, right? That was 8:50, now at 8:53. I'm going to call Melo tomorrow. Listening now. OMG, did not even think of that. Ms. Genduso replies, yep. It took me all day for the light to come on. Ms. Gattani says, haha, I can't believe me and Kate didn't either because we were literally talking about the bogus witness intimidation charges he filed on her and how he is considered a quote witness, end quote. OMG, the joy it would give me to play him at his own game. Ms. Genduso replies, 100%. Ms. Gattani replies, I still think he'll be stupid / cocky enough to post S about me, even if he knows I'm a witness. But at least I know he will be charged if he does. Melo is our only hope right now. Let's just let that marinate a second. First of all, props to Mark Bederow for calling them Ms. and Ms. instead of just calling them by their first names, which so many others would just do. We just watched a trial where the doctors were questioned by the prosecutor using their first names as they were questioning them. It was really weird. Sounds like a conspiracy. Smells like a conspiracy. If it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it could be a duck. I don't know. There's a big problem also with some rubber duckies going on over there. What's in the water in Massachusetts? Don't drink it. Don't drink the water, as Dave Matthews says. Don't drink the water. Melo is our only hope right now, folks. What did that media file say? Was it a voice message from one to the other? Was it, I don't know, a video from one to the other with some info? Whatever it was, Ms. Gaetani says, OMG, did not even think of that. And incredulously, it strains credulity, but she says, haha, I can't believe me and Kate didn't either because we were literally talking about how the bogus witness intimidation charges he filed on her, and he's now considered a witness. Who's her? Or maybe they'll tell us. Seems like they're taking some delight in trying to get Aiden Kearney taken down, but they're working together, and that there's more than one person. They do an overt act in furtherance of this plan. It is under the law called conspiracy. I'm hypothesizing right now, but let's see where we go. The extraction report provided to the defense also is missing Ms. Peters' responses to Ms. Gattani's messages described in her interactions with DL Tully and Mr. Mello. This missing evidence is significant because Ms. Peters' prior messages demonstrate that she convinced Ms. Gattani that she had direct access to Mr. Mello. I need to turn my highlighter on. She communicated directly with him about Ms. Gattani and Mr. Kearney, and then placed Ms. Gattani into direct contact with Mr. Mello weeks before December 23rd of 2023. And the plot thickens. Now there are three. Ms. Peters' responses to Ms. Gattani's messages inexplicably disappear from the extraction report on December 14th of 2023 after Ms. Gattani texted her, Ms. Peter, that she met with DL Tully and she wanted to discuss the meeting with her. Um, hmm, the plot sickens, says Elf. The plot sickens. So the messages, who did the extraction? Was it Trooperino? Did Trooper Guarino do the extraction report? Because there's just things missing. Oh, Trooperino. Trooper Guarino, also to just refresh your recollection, was the same Guy who did the extraction report on Matthew Farwell's phone and couldn't find any of the 30,000 plus messages between Farwell and Sandra Birchmore, who he is now charged with murdering. But, they originally ruled it a suicide because there was no evidence. He also extracted the cell phones in the Karen Reed case and couldn't find, some other things that were deleted by Jennifer McCabe and others. But he seems to have a hard time. If this is him, I'm not sure if it is. Does anybody know if he did the extraction here? Karen's phone, Sandra's phone, Jen McCabe's phone. Max Bang surmises. I mean, holy sus, I bet there's so much more to this than their hatred for Turtleboy. It's insane. Because you can't script this. You can't. You don't even need to. All you need to do is just write it the way it's already written. As substantially oh, wait. Did I miss that footnote? No. As substantially corroborated by the above described evidence, the defense alleges that Ms. Gattani secretly sought to harm Mr. Kearney by misrepresenting herself as someone else online at the same time she pretended to support him during their romantic relationship. Wait, she was catfishing him as someone else? Hold on. Let's go to the footnote. As the extraction report confirms, in October of 2023, Ms. Gattani created a fake Twitter account, Jane 521-090-65864, on her cell phone. On November 5th of 2023, posing as Jane, Ms. Gattani offered to provide Ms. Peter with some potentially good news about Mr. Kearney to assist Ms. Peter's defense of her own witness intimidation charges in which Mr. Kearney was the witness. Okay, so going back to those prior text messages, when they talk about her, are they talking about Catherine Peter? Okay, perhaps. On November 7th of 2023, Jane tweeted, all right, so let's get the timeline of events here. It's November 5th, November 7th. Jane tweeted that she hoped Mr. Kearney would go to jail in connection with his pending case. And then 2 days later, on November 9th, Jane tweeted support for Ms. Peters' stated intent to discuss Mr. Kearney's pending criminal charges on her YouTube show. On November 12th, 2023, Jane publicly mused whether Mr. Kearney violated the witness intimidation statute and claimed that all of his crimes were on tape. This is like 6 weeks prior to his arrest or setup, or whatever you want to call it, because it looks like some conspiracy and collusion, but that's my own initial opinion, legal opinion from reading these papers, this letter, actually, that is now public. Despite conclusive proof that Ms. Gattani created the Jane account on her cell phone in October of 2023, a few months later, she deliberately misled the Medfield police. What? Writing to an officer that Mr. Kearney believed that I was the owner of a Twitter account, Jane. So he refers to me as Jane in these tweets. I mean, that's, a problem. You can't lie to the police. Ms. Gattani similarly lied to Ms. Peter on December 11th, texting her that Mr. Kearney thinks I'm this Twitter account named Jane. Wow. Wow. So let this just be a little, wake up call for all of those people out there on Twitter under fake names that apparently they can find out who you really are. So you might want to take a step back from some of the stuff that you're posting anonymously, thinking that, hey, nobody's going to ever know that it's me, because Bederow and Bradel were able to find out that Jane was, in fact, Lindsay Gattani. And they also were able to find out that she made this Twitter account from her phone and what day she made it. Or actually in October of 2023, not the exact day, but it says in October. The plot thickens even more. The defense further alleges that she secretly, she's talking about, they're talking about Ms. Katani still. She secretly formed an alliance with Ms. Peter and Ms. Genduso, the purpose of which was to exploit Mr. Mello into making her a witness against Mr. Kearney to increase the likelihood that he would be arrested. Okay, what is this, like Survivor? Do you remember on Survivor, the way that the contestants would form alliances to avoid getting kicked off the island and putting out their torch? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to predict anything, but it looks like some torches may be being put out if all this stuff is true. Clearly, the missing media file and text messages are relevant, discoverable, and almost certainly favorable to the defense. Well, yeah, I think so. We are concerned that the MSP has intentionally deceived you. And when he says you, he's talking to, because this letter is to Cosgrove and Melo, by excluding discoverable and exculpatory evidence from the extraction report provided to the defense, which, if true, would constitute a flagrant Brady violation. On January 10th, 2024, Ms. Gattani provided her cellular phone to DL Tunney. Oh, and Trooper Guarino, it is. It's Trooper Guarino. He was there. Tully and Guarino again. For the purpose of having it extracted, the combination of the missing evidence described above and Trooper Guarino's woefully incomplete phone extractions in the Karen Reed case and the MSP's flawed investigation into the death of Sandra Birchmore lead us to question the completeness of the extraction report the MSP provided to the Commonwealth for disclosure to the defense. What? I mean, Tully and Guarino, take a breath. Remember also in Sandra Birchmore, it was Guarino who did the extraction, but it was Fanning who signed off on the reports and says, I'm the one. Fanning takes full credit for being the one to analyze the data. Footnote 7. In the Reed case, Trooper Guarino's extraction of Jennifer McCabe's cellular phone failed to reveal several deleted phone calls, text messages, and Google searches, which became key issues at trial. Reed's defense, however, was able to locate this data on their own. Even worse, according to an August 16, 2021 report prepared by Sergeant John Fanning of the MSP as part of the investigation into Ms. Birchmore's death, Trooper Guarino extracted former Stoughton police officer Matthew Farwell's work and personal phones. According to Sergeant Fanning, the MSP did not find any communication with Sandra Birchmore on Matthew's phones. Based upon the filings in the federal case accusing Mr. Farwell of murdering Ms. Birchmore, there were more than 32,000 electronic communications between Ms. Birchmore and her alleged murderer, many of which are incriminating and assuredly contributed to the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts taking the virtually unprecedented step of prosecuting a murder case in federal court because the Commonwealth incorrectly declared Mrs. Birchmore's death a suicide. What could Nick Guarino's motivation be? Not even motivation. Why? All right, that goes to motivation, right? Is he, and I'm speculating, is he incompetent? Does he not have any idea how to extract cell phone data? Because he's the expert at the MSP, right? He's the guy. Is he incompetent? Or is he just willing to risk his entire career for these people and this organization? I don't get it. What? I don't get it. Seems like a decent guy, but like, why? Why would you do this, Nick? Why would you do this? Why would you risk your livelihood, your career? He's the one who said on the stand at the Karen Reed trial, when he was presented with something, text messages or something that he didn't find, kill me now on a hot mic. Kill me now. Accordingly, consistent with your obligation to learn about the possible existence of exculpatory and discoverable evidence in your possession, we request that you interview Trooper Guarino and DL Tully and inform the defense whether they have unintentionally or intentionally withheld information that should have been included in the extraction report. And if so, promptly disclose to the defense a complete, accurate, and thorough extraction report for Ms. Gattani's cellular phone. And B, make any other proper disclosures that may be required as a result of your findings with respect to DL Tully and Trooper Guarino's handling an extraction of Ms. Gattani's cellular phone. This is big, you guys. This is big. This is big because if this is another Brady violation, in my opinion, these guys are done. They're done. They're done. Guarino, Tully, all of these people are done. They cannot be used in any case to testify for anything in any other case, including Brian Walsh and all these other ones that are coming down the pike. You know who's coming down the pike next? Because we watched the hearing the other day after Turtleboy's hearing was Judge Bev got on the bench, or Honorable Justice Beverly Canone got on the bench, and it was a hearing for the surgeon who allegedly murdered his wife, Dr. Ingolf Turk, Tuerk. Look it up. Every single defendant who is sitting in prison right now as a result of cell phone extractions by these people and the analyzation of data by these people, Tully, Guarino, Fanning, they're banging on the jailhouse bars right now. I've been wrongfully convicted. It's insane. Next chapter, section. I mean, how could it get any worse for them? Better for Aiden, and Karen Reed, and Brian Walsh, and Ingolf Turk, and all of the criminals who are sitting, perhaps, wrongfully convicted in Massachusetts prisons. Evidence related to the credibility of MSP witnesses. The Commonwealth's theory is that Mr. Kearney intimidated Trooper Proctor based upon comments he made on his YouTube show. They allege that Mr. Kearney intimidated Sergeant Buchanan by shouting his opinion at Sergeant Buchanan that Trooper Proctor was a corrupt and a effing joke and that Sergeant Buchanan was a loser. Tully is the lead investigator in this case. As such, their credibility is an issue, and the defense is entitled to any information in the Commonwealth's possession, custody, or control that tends to impeach their credibility. Remarkably, all three are presently under internal affairs investigation. So, to recap, Michael Proctor, Yuri Buchanan are two of the alleged witnesses Aiden Kearney is charged with felony witness intimidation of. They are both under federal affairs investigation. Internal affairs investigation by the MSP. Although I think Buchanan was just given like a clawback of 5 days. Wait a second. This is dated the 12th of September. Didn't that finding come down after the 12th of September? Now I got to go look that up. Was it because of this letter that they decided to quickly wrap up Buchanan's internal affairs investigation and just say, oh, no big whoop? No big whoop that he liked some text messages having to do with looking through Karen Reed's phone for nudes and, such things like that. And then they just gave him a clawback of 5 days of accrued vacation. of which he had something like hundreds accrued. So really, it was nothing. Was it after September 12th? I think it was. Curious. So was this letter the catalyst for them to wrap that up? Okay. Proctor still isn't wrapped up, though, right? Okay. Moving on. As noted, Supra, the Commonwealth has acknowledged the existence of Trooper Proctor's substantial credibility problems in Brady letters sent to numerous attorneys in July and September of 2024. The Commonwealth has further acknowledged that it possesses extraction reports for his cellular phones and data from his cloud account, including the despicable and misogynist text messages introduced at the Reed trial. What did Proctor call them? Unfortunate, unprofessional. He certainly didn't admit that they were despicable and misogynist. They were just unfortunate, unprofessional. Our demand includes a transcript from Trooper Proctor's testimony against Ms. Reed, copies of his text messages admitted into evidence at the Reed trial, and any other text messages which tend to impair his credibility in any matter in which he was involved. C. Graham, which stands for the premise that prosecution must disclose exculpatory evidence in any criminal case in which that officer prepared a report or may serve as a witness. With respect to Sergeant Buchanan, we demand any evidence, documentation, or information in the Commonwealth's possession, custody, or control that tends to suggest he perjured himself at the Reed trial. Oh, the inverted video? Specifically, Sergeant Buchanan swore on direct examination. Yes, he did. That video evidence from a garage at the Canton Police Department was a fair and accurate depiction of how an SUV appeared in the garage when Sergeant Buchanan assuredly knew that the video, in fact, was a mirrored or inverted depiction, which flipped the SUV in the video and thus concealed critical evidence from the jury, including the true location and condition of the right rear taillight of the SUV and Trooper Proctor's presence directly next to the right rear taillight. That whole entire thing deserves to be highlighted. See id. For those of you who are wondering, what the hell is id? It's Latin. And what it means is, see the case that I just cited directly before this paragraph, which would go back to this case right here. Seagram versus Massachusetts. That is id. This demand includes any notes, documents, or other evidence demonstrating that Sergeant Buchanan discussed the garage video with other members of the MSP, the Canton Police Department, the Commonwealth, or anyone else associated with the Reed prosecution team. In addition to any information that tends to discredit any prosecution witness, we specifically demand disclosure of any and all materials, documents, and information in the Commonwealth's possession, custody, or control that tends to adversely impact the credibility of Trooper Proctor, Sergeant Buchanan, DL Tully, and Trooper Guarino, including but not limited to any evidence related to the MSP internal affairs investigation or any other agency's investigation of these witnesses, the nature of the allegations and or specifications against them, any reports or transcripts of statements made by them or others about the allegations, and the results of any disciplinary hearings or proceedings. C. Graham. It's getting juicy. Next section is called Evidence of Promises, Rewards, and Inducements. Let's take a quick break and go and see if you guys have any. Thank you, Dee, whose mind is blown. Thanks for the 20. says, this is gold. Mr. Bederow is so good. Thank you, Melanie, for breaking this down. Thank you guys for listening. Mandolin Wind says, I thought DL was on the down low. Ha, works here. Eh? Yeah, I thought that too. DL on the down low. Phoebe says, Guarino says, tell me all that you know. I'll show you. Snow and rain. Doo, doo, doo. Another Grateful Dead song. Thank you, Phoebe. Kelly Reed in the house. Hi, Kelly. Says she's been looking forward to my reading and legal interpretation of the Bederow letters. The Bederow letters, are they going to go down in history as the Bederow letters? I mean, what this really is the discovery demand in letter form. It's genius. The Bederow letters. I love it. Thanks, Kelly. Cheyenne Brown says, he was set up. Thank you, Cheyenne. Mrs. Bucket for your super sticker. Some guy with cancer. Thank you for the 5. And again, I'm so sorry about your cancer. Tom Girardi got away with stealing client money starting in 83, over 200 complaints, but did nothing until 2022. I have no faith in lawyer oversight. Thank you for that. Catherine and Jeffrey became new members. Thank you so very much. Romy says, Melo suffers from diabetes. Thank you for your opinion. Appreciate you. And Donnie Not Wahlberg for gifting a membership. Thank you for gifting it. Whoever was gifted, welcome. Donnie Not Wahlberg is from San Antonio. Thank you. And Shauna also gifted a membership. Thank you, Mandolin Wind, for gifting a membership, as did Danielle. You guys are so generous. Jadzia, thanks for being a member for 2 months. Charlie Lynn for 5 months says Tully, Mello, Buchanan, and Trooperino are done. Wouldn't it be crazy if all because Bradel Bederow and the defense of Aiden Kearney? Wouldn't it be ironic? Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? A little too ironic. I really do think that if they never went after Aiden Kearney, all of this stuff might not have been exposed. But they're just, members, put some shovel emojis in the chat, would you? Some shovel emojis, because these people just keep digging themselves. Dig, 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 dig. How big of a hole can you dig for yourself? Give somebody enough rope. Thanks, GV, for your super sticker and for your compliment. I appreciate you so. False imprisonment, says Sarah B. Creative. Thank you. Chiming in, Cherie, new member. Skylar, new member. Lori Shepard, new member. Thank you, Kat, for appreciating me so much. I appreciate you all so much. Miss Bucket, appreciating me. Super sticker from On Top. Susie, what criminal charges should be for Guarino and Tully? Don't know enough about it yet to hypothesize, but that will remain to be seen whether anything happens to them. But this is kind of crazy. Scott McGinnis, thanks for the 10, says, cry havoc, let slip the dogs of war. Attorneys Bederow and Bradel have united in the fight for Turtleboy, and also like the fight for justice and the fight for, First Amendment rights and so many other things. But yes, also for him, but it is also, I think, bigger than him. It's insane. The killer bees have invaded Massachusetts. DA Meatball's days are numbered. Thank you, Scott. As we begin the next section, none of your business. No shovel, but I found this toothbrush. Evidence of promises, rewards, and inducements. We demand disclosure of any promise, reward, or inducements to any potential witnesses of which the Commonwealth is aware, including, but not limited to, financial consideration, travel reimbursement, witness fees, car service, childcare, social services, or assistance/leniency in any criminal investigation, prosecution. That's very interesting. And I think it is not further elaborated on for many reasons. Grand jury testimony and statement of witnesses. Statements of witnesses. You have previously informed counsel that the defense has been provided with relevant, in quotes, grand jury testimony. To the extent that we have not been provided with all grand jury testimony and statements of testifying witnesses, demand is made for a complete set of grand jury minutes and the statements of any witnesses who testified before the grand juries, which returned indictments against Mr. Kearney in December 2023 and February of 2024, respectively. Demand is also made with respect to the grand jury proceedings, which sought Mr. Kearney's and Karen Reed's indictment for witness intimidation, but which resulted in a no true bill against Mr. Kearney and Ms. Reed on or about March 27th of 2024. And any other grand jury proceedings commenced against Mr. Kearney and or others related to him or his defense for witness intimidation or related charges. So apparently, the grand jury that sat to try and indict not only Aidan Kearney, but Karen Reed, both of them in March of 2024 for some type of witness intimidation, was not successful. And the killer bees, you guys calling them the killer bees? I'm going to go with that. Is there a bumblebee emoji? The killer bees coming in hot, looking for all of the grand jury testimony, because could it be possible that some of the witnesses who testified in front of the grand jury to obtain these indictments perhaps were not truthful in their sworn testimony? We saw it in the Karen Reed case. We saw the testimony of Michael Proctor to the grand jury. Oh, I like the bumblebees. They're cool. Where Michael Proctor said he did not have a relationship with the Alberts or anyone else, minimizing the relationship. We went over that motion at length, how the indictment should be thrown out because of the false evidence, fake evidence, misconstrued evidence that was presented at the grand jury. We went over it, and it was my opinion that the when you took all of the evidence together, the cumulative effect may have been the jury may not have indicted things that were let in, such as the Sullivan sisters coming into the grand jury to testify. But Justice Beverly Cannoni ruled on that and said, no, 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 no. Go back. I have an entire playlist on the pretrial shenanigans in the Karen Reed case. Look for that motion. It was the motion to dismiss the indictment. There was all kind of shenanigans going on in those grand jury proceedings. And now the killer bees are like, okay, we watched the Karen Reed trial. We saw what happened. We know about their pretrial motions. And so therefore, knowing that some of these people, that Aidan Kearney is facing, like 120 year, whatever, essentially like a life sentence for intimidating, that we want to see what they said to the grand jury. I think they're entitled to it. But, grand jury proceedings are supposed to be like secret. Next section, disqualification of Special ADA Melo. Information extracted from Ms. Gaetani's cell phone confirms that approximately 2 weeks prior to December 23rd of 2023, Mr. Melo was in direct communication with Ms. Gaetani, Ms. Peter, and D.L. Tully, presumably for the purpose of discussing Mr. Kearney's eventual arrest for the alleged witness intimidation of Ms. Gaetani. Can you say conspiracy? Can you say collusion? There's a lot of C words that you come to mind that we're not going to type in the chat. So the allegation here, or the hypothesis here, or the theory here is that perhaps Tully, Melo, Gaetani, Peter, and Genduso, by Extrapolation. We're all in communication. 2, set up Aiden Kearney and put him in jail and shut him up. On December 11th, 2023, Ms. Gattani, in a message to Ms. Genduso, described Mr. Mello as our only hope now. Oh yeah, we just read those messages. Mr. Mello's testimony regarding his conversations with Ms. Gattani and or others acting on her behalf. Let's go to footnote 8. On December 11th, 2023, Ms. Peter texted Ms. Gattani that A, she had Mr. Mello's personal cell phone number. B, she would call Melo to feel out the situation. See if there's anything that can be done. C, she received information from several sources, including the DA and the MSP. D, she spoke to Mr. Mello off the record she spoke to Mr. Mello off the record about Ms. Gattani with some specifics. And E, Mr. Mello assured her he would have Mr. Kearney arrested if he threatens or blackmails you. Okay. So on December 11th, apparently they've got the receipts. That masshole mafia masshole Catherine Peter was texting Melo or in communication with Melo, and that Melo said to Peter, don't worry, I'll have Kearney arrested if he threatens or blackmails Gattani. So in their infinite wisdom, they decide to find a way. Perhaps that's the allegation. Well, it is. That's exactly it. Mr. Mello's testimony regarding his conversations with Mrs. Gattani and or others acting on her behalf is significant to Mr. Kearney's defense that Mrs. Gattani and others used Mr. Mello to orchestrate Mr. Kearney's arrest well before December 23rd, 2023. And that's why, Melo, you need to step aside here, because now you're going to be called as a witness about how these charges against Aiden Kearney came to be. Nothing like making yourself a witness as an attorney. Not exactly where you want to be. The curious timeline of events leading to Mr. Kearney's arrest. That is my cursor on your screen. Don't break your TV and send me a bill. The curious timeline of events leading to Mr. Kearney's arrest requires Mr. Mello's testimony at trial. Only Mr. Mello can explain why he arranged to make Ms. Gattani a witness against Mr. Kearney by having DL Tully serve her with a grand jury summons on December 22nd, 2023, one day before Mr. Kearney allegedly committed witness intimidation against Ms. Gattani, and 2 days after Mr. Mello completed a grand jury investigation into alleged witness intimidation unrelated to Ms. Gattani. Yeah, the timing's a little sus. Footnote 9 says, not surprisingly, shortly after she received the summons, Ms. Gattani sent a copy to Mr. Kearney, after which, in a series of text messages that day and the next, she urged him to come over to her apartment. Ms. Gattani stated under oath on January 8th of 2024 that DL Tully advised her that she could show the summons to Mr. Kearney. There's a series of books called, I think it's called, A Series of Unfortunate Events. Right? Is that what it was called? I don't know. Some of my kids read that when they were little, A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. Anybody familiar? That's what I would call a series of unfortunate events. Bentley Arms says, how has this not been dismissed as a conspiracy? Well, they haven't turned over all this stuff yet. But I think that's the direction in which the defense is headed. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're trying. A series of unfortunate events. Yep. Everyone knows that, right? Love the movie. Lemony Snicket. Isn't this kind of like that? A series of unfortunate events? A book, a series, and a movie. It's a little cupcake. Your mom is waiting for a Lally to be a witness next. Could be a witness with regard to the inverted video, right? Anybody think maybe that's why they also brought on Hank Brennan, the prosecution, Karen Reed, because, or the re-prosecution, or the persecution, or the retrial, because maybe Lally's going to be a witness? There's the setup, says Anne. Knocked down like a bowling pin. Ms. Gattani did not testify before a grand jury until February 1 of 2024. Her testimony resulted in an indictment related only to events from December 23rd of 2023, i.e. after she received a grand jury summons. That's interesting, isn't it? The theory is, okay, we're going to serve you with a grand jury summons. You're going to call him and tell him you got served with a grand jury summons. And, tell him maybe you don't want to talk to him over the phone about everything and you need him to come over to your house. And then when he comes over to your house, we'll see what we can do to get him. That's the theory. But isn't that interesting? They serve her with a grand jury summons 2 days before the events. No, 1 day. I'm sorry. All right. Tully served her with a grand jury summons on December 22nd, 1 day before he allegedly committed witness intimidation against her, and 2 days after Melo completed a grand jury investigation. Okay. So the grand jury investigation had already been complete, but she served with this, bogus grand jury subpoena summons before he allegedly committed any crime against her? What? What the what? I need to see a copy of this grand jury summons now. What did it say? Appear when? Appear on the crime that hasn't yet been committed? For a grand jury for the crime that hasn't been committed yet? Or appear for the grand jury for the crimes which have already been concluded by a grand jury? What the what? Okay. But it's not really okay because this is outrageous. The obvious questions relevant to Mr. Kearney's defense, which only Mr. Mello can answer, remain. Why was Ms. Gattani served a summons in connection with a concluded grand jury presentation? And why did she testify more than 1 month later about events that had not even occurred when she was served the summons? I should have kept reading and it would have answered all my questions. Mr. Mello's testimony is also required because he's a direct witness to the critical events of December 23rd of 2023. Okay, here we go. Here's the receipts. At 12:19 p.m., Ms. Gattani texted Mr. Kearney that she loved him and that she was wrong to speak to Ms. Peter. She then texted Mr. Kearney that we should save everything else for in person. At 4:12 p.m., Ms. Gattani called Ms. Peter and spoke with her for approximately 6 minutes. At 4:56 p.m. and 4:59 p.m., just hours before Mr. Kearney allegedly committed crimes against Ms. Gattani, Mr. Mello spoke to her. I don't get speechless very often, but this is insane. What had happened was, yep, I say that all the time. May the force be with you. What had happened was, this is insane. Yep, logically legal. Like if I hadn't been following this case, I would think this was a fictional true crime podcast. During the actual incident, rather than call 911 or the local police for help, at 10:25 p.m., Ms. Gattani instead called Mr. Mello, who rather than call 911 himself, patched in Tully as Mr. Kearney was allegedly as Mr. Kearney allegedly continued to intimidate Ms. Gattani. So they're on like a three-way conference call. They're on a three-way. The plotting thickens. Later, again during the incident, Ms. Gattani called Mr. Mello at 1:16 a.m. and 3:35 a.m. Are they going to say these are butt dials? Oh, that footnote continued and said, we anticipate that Mr. Mello and DL Tully will flatly contradict Ms. Gattani's sworn claim at trial. In other words, Mr. Mello indisputably is a witness to alleged criminal conduct that led him, in his capacity as special prosecutor, to authorize Mr. Kearney's arrest and prosecution. This is wild. Finally, because Ms. Gattani deleted her messages with Mr. Mello and the extraction report provided to the defense does not include this discoverable and material evidence, the defense intends to question Mr. Mello about the contents and whereabouts of this evidence on his devices. Footnote 10. To the extent the Commonwealth claims that it is unable to provide relevant messages from Ms. Gaetani's phone, they are obligated to provide the above described evidence from devices belonging to Melo, Tully, and Ms. Peter, according to the Massachusetts Rules of Criminal Procedure. In these circumstances, Mr. Mello cannot at the same time prosecute Mr. Kearney and be a material fact witness. No, he just can't. See Patterson. Actual conflict exists where a trial counsel is the only witness who may impeach statements of a different witness. And the Massachusetts professional rule that says a lawyer shall not act as advocate where a lawyer is likely to be a necessary witness. Please feel free to contact us if you wish to discuss any of these issues in advance of the September 26, 2024 appearance. XOXO, Mark Bederow. Killa B, number 2. Only because Bradel was number 1 because he was on the case first. The September 26, 2024 appearance is the one that we watched with all of the sidebars that we could not see. But we do know that Ms. Gattani was present that day in the courtroom. We know that. And that the judge asked her to come up at the end of the hearing to sidebar because she wanted to have some stuff impounded, right? She wanted some stuff to be sealed with regard to her. Let's go to the chat for a moment as you're digesting this. If you're just hearing this for the first time with me, because we have a second letter. That's not all. That letter was from September 12th. There's a second letter, September 19th, a week later. Thanks, Ashley, for digging with me. You covering cases in footnote of letter on Proctor? Not today, not right now. But I'm not going to like go over the case law. I didn't read the case law, so can't really do that right now. But thanks, Julia. Oh, the Goodmans gifted membership. Thank you so much. Siobhan says, Mark Bederow says they are zombies. They just keep coming. Thanks, Siobhan. Freedom Ring, give a gift to my wife and said Trooper Proctor. Danielle, thanks for the 10. This is all crazy to me. People, electronic words are forever. I don't know why people they don't get it. It's out there forever. Like Snapchat, just because you think it disappears doesn't mean it really disappears. Teach your children well, people. Once it's out there, it's out there. Melissa, thanks for your super sticker. Pilgrim Shadow. Can you post a link where we can find this document online? I've had no luck. If anybody has a link to this stuff online, well, you can't really post links in the chat. You could email it to me. I don't know. I was sent it directly. I didn't find it online. So if anybody has it, small wheel turned by the fire and rod, big wheel turned by the grace of God. All of us need some grace nowadays. Thank you, mods. Thank you, Pilgrim Shadow, for your Grateful Dead quote of the day. For the 20. Actually, there might be a Google Drive link. Let me think about it. I think I know where it is. I'm positively gleeful, says Anissa. Thank you so much. Would Melo's conduct be grounds to revoke his law license? If proven true, this absolutely could be grounds for not only a suspension, but a disbarment, if true. If it is true that he criminally conspired with people to effectuate an arrest of Aiden Kearney, that's like a big deal. That's a really big deal. Not only criminal, but it's it could get you disbarred. Yeah, it could. So wow. Romy's like, this is legit BS to me. How is this real life? How is this real life? And it's so funny is that Aiden Kearney's been like screamed about this into a closet for a long time, and nobody wanted to believe him. And now there's receipts on it. Thanks, Romy. Zelda, thanks. Almost like the Capone tax thing. Get them on something else. Somebody is telling me that on the Young Jerks Facebook, you can find the letters. Don't go now, though. Don't go now. Go later, because we're not done. We're just up to letter number 2. Thank you for that info. Here is the September 19th letter, because the Killer Bees aren't done yet. Now remember, the hearing that we watched last week was September 26th, so this is all well in advance of the hearing. Again, to Cosgrove and Melo. Dear Messrs. Cosgrove and Melo, this letter supplements my September 12th letter and provides additional information that compels Mr. Mello's withdrawal as a special assistant district attorney in any matters regarding Aiden Kearney. Anne's like, hoss along before the residents of Massachusetts wake up. This could be you. You can't. All right, everybody, I have to run and just grab something. I need something else to drink because I am parched. Just talk amongst yourselves for a second. I'll be right back. Don't freak out. Okay. Now I'm back. All right. Oh, the cup. What if anything is in the cup? The cup was iced coffee, but now that's gone. So I had to grab something else. All right. And we resume. Dear Messrs. Cosgrove and Melo, this letter supplements my September 12th letter. Oh, we already read that paragraph. Okay. On December 28th, 2023, the Fall River Reporter published a lengthy interview between Mr. Melo and reporter Jess Machado, see Exhibit A. And then he gives a little link to the article right here in footnote 1. In that interview, which occurred sometime after December 23rd of 2023, so after the events in question, right? Mr. Mello implied that he had firsthand knowledge about events that led to Mr. Kearney's indictment for allegedly intimidating witness Lindsay Gattani on December 23rd of 2023. Mr. Mello opined that the evidence against Mr. Kearney was overwhelming and publicly expressed his confidence in Mr. Kearney's guilt. See id at page 4, meaning the article written by Fall River reporter Jessica Machado. Just stay on. Some of Mr. Mello's statements to Ms. Machado flatly contradict Ms. Gattani's prior statements and testimony. Consequently, in addition to the reasons previously outlined in my September 12, 2024 letter, Mr. Mello cannot prosecute Mr. Kearney because his testimony will A, corroborate the defense theory that Mr. Kearney's arrest for witness intimidation was planned prior to December 23rd, 2023, and B, impeach Ms. Gattani. See September 12th letter. Mr. Mello's interview with the Fall River Reporter was published just 6 days after he directed the Massachusetts State Police to serve Ms. Gattani with a grand jury summons. Mr. Mello told Ms. Machado that he made Ms. Gattani a witness after we received some communication from her. Oh, well, that's interesting. So he told her that Lindsay reached out to them? In fact, Mr. Mello, seemingly prescient, arranged for Ms. Gattani to be made a witness by having her served with a grand jury summons immediately after Ms. Kearney's December 22nd, 2023 arraignment, which was one day before Mr. Kearney allegedly committed witness intimidation against her. Footnote 2, Mr. Mello told Ms. Machado that Mr. Kearney appeared to be more brazen after his afternoon arraignment. Oops. Serving Ms. Gattani with a summons just 2 days after Mr. Mello concluded a lengthy grand jury presentation against Mr. Kearney, which resulted in a slew of witness intimidation indictments, combined with Mr. Mello's lack of evidence that Mr. Kearney committed any crimes against Ms. Gattani, makes no sense. It's hard to fathom any reason that Ms. Gattani was served with a grand jury summons on December 22nd, 2023, other than to immediately qualify her for protection under this statute, which would criminalize any emotional harm she allegedly was caused by Mr. Kearney, precisely as Ms. Gattani and others planned on December 11th, when Ms. Gattani admitted, "Melo is our only hope." Wow. Just wow. How do we make her a witness so that when something happens, she's considered a witness for purposes of the statute? And that's why he was put in jail for 60 days. Wow. See September 12th letter. But Ms. Gattani's interview with MSP Detective Lieutenant DL Brian Tully 5 days later amounted to little more than the MSP pumping her for information about contacts between Karen Reed and Mr. Kearney. In other words, prior to being served with a grand jury summons, Ms. Gattani did not allege to the MSP or Mr. Mello that Mr. Kearney committed any crimes against her or anyone else. I don't know. Can you say like malicious prosecution? I don't know. It's just a phrase. Footnote 3. Mr. Mello's investigator was present with D.L. Tully during the December 14th, 2023 interview, which on information and belief was Ms. Gattani's only police interview prior to being served with a grand jury summons. It's December 14th. If Mr. Mello lacked any proof that Mr. Kearney committed any crimes against Ms. Gattani before December 22nd, 2023, it's essential to Mr. Kearney's defense that the jury know why Mr. Mello arranged for her and nobody else to be served with a grand jury summons on December 22nd, 2023, when there wasn't an open grand jury investigation. I mean, what? What? Mr. Mello is the only witness who can shed light on this important issue. I mean, Mark, important issue is you're being really kind there. I think I think of a lot more phrases. I mean, look, that's what a classy guy Mark Bederow is. In his interview with the Fall River Reporter, Mr. Mello described Mr. Kearney as a master manipulator who exploited someone substantially younger than him. Footnote 4. On December 23rd, 2023, Ms. Gattani was 37 years old, and Mr. Kearney was days away from turning 42 years old. What? There's a 5-year age difference? What? 5 years? He exploited someone who was substantially younger than him? Boston Mass 781's opinion is, these fools grossly underestimated Aiden. Master manipulator. I guess that's where this phrase comes from that I'm hearing in my chats for other cases that have come after this one. Speaking of other defendants in other cases. Presumably relaying what Ms. Gattani told him, Mr. Mello claimed that she felt Mr. Kearney abandoned her on December 23rd of 2023, which led her to have a change of heart towards him because of his alleged conduct that evening. Mr. Mello adamantly denied that Ms. Gattani called him to retaliate against Mr. Kearney. See Exhibit A, page 5. As you're aware, contrary to what Ms. Gattani told Mr. Mello and what Mr. Mello regurgitated to the media, there is substantial evidence that Ms. Gattani did retaliate against Mr. Kearney by using Mr. Mello to effect Mr. Kearney's arrest. Ms. Gattani's documented communications with Mr. Kearney and others conclusively proves that she and others who disliked Mr. Kearney plotted prior to December 23rd, 2023, to use Mr. Mello as the vessel for making Ms. Gattani a witness against Mr. Kearney so she could play him at his own game by having him arrested for witness intimidation. Mr. Mello's public comments to Ms. Machado also evince his personal knowledge of the events of December 23rd, 2023, which is consistent with documented proof that Ms. Gattani inexplicably called Mr. Mello before, during, and after the incident, but did not call the police after allegedly being intimidated and assaulted by Mr. Kearney. 5. The grand jury declined to indict Mr. Kearney for assault. So those charges were dropped, my friends. They were dropped. The allegations were that she pushed him, I think, that he pushed her onto the couch or something such as like that. See September 12th letter. In fact, neither Mr. Mello nor anyone else called the police during the incident. Footnote 6. The first contact with the local police occurred on December 24th, 2023, when D.L. Tully called the Medfield police because Mizukatani was hesitant to call the local police. See Exhibit C. So Tully called the Medfield police because Katani was hesitant to call the local police. Okay. We're going to get to the exhibits after this because that's fun. Mr. Mello instead called D.L. Tully, who attempted to listen to the encounter between Ms. Gattani and Mr. Kearney for several minutes. See Exhibit C. In these circumstances, it is critical that Mr. Mello explain under oath why, if he became aware and heard Mr. Kearney intimidating a grand jury witness one day after she was served with a summons, he did not call 911. Footnote 7. Prior to December 2023, Mr. Mello already had called the police to report less serious allegations of witness intimidation. On November 5th, 2023, after a grand jury witness called Mr. Mello complaining that a group of peaceful protesters had gathered across the street from his pizza establishment, Mr. Mello called the Canton police on his behalf. During those calls, he specifically advised the Canton police that the protesters were violating MGL Section 268, 13B. So that's, I believe, the Canton 9 who were protesting across the street from Chris Albert's D&E Pizzeria. And Mello called the police on them? Okay. Why he did not instruct Ms. Gattani to call 911 and why he called D.L. Tully instead of the local police. Mr. Mello is an essential defense witness. He is a witness relative to conduct between Ms. Gattani and Mr. Kearney that directly led to Mr. Kearney's arrest and indictment. He's the only witness who can explain why Ms. Gattani was served with a grand jury summons on December 22nd, 2023, when no proceeding was pending, and her prior statements to the MSP did not allege that Mr. Kearney committed any crimes. It is virtually certain that his testimony will be required to impeach Ms. Gattani on numerous material topics. For the reasons stated above and those referenced in our September 12th, 2023 letter, Mr. Mello is required to voluntarily recuse himself as a special assistant district attorney pursuant to Rule 3.7 of the Massachusetts Rules of Professional Conduct and Commonwealth v. Scanlon. XOXO, Mark Bederow. Wow. Well, you may recall that during the last hearing, there is a motion to recuse, right? Is there a motion to recuse or disqualify already pending? And she put that over? Let me just look at my notes. Yeah, the motion to disqualify Ken Mello as the DA is scheduled to be heard on January 10th, unless, of course, he voluntarily recuses himself before then, in which case that court date would be moot. And there's a motion to suppress that's currently scheduled for December 2nd. Okay, let's get to the exhibits, shall we? Kirsten, thank you for the 10, says, as with any kind of data reporting, this is only the case you know about. There are so many more you've never heard of. I hear you saying it could be you. Likely for too many people, it is already them, right? Romy, thank you. This is absolutely wild. How can Mello even try to defend against this gross misconduct? I don't know. Is that why he's been kind of like maybe in hiding? I don't know. Exhibit A is the Fall River Reporter article by Jess Machado that is referred to in this letter, which we will not read together, but someone has told me is on the Young Jerks Facebook page. You can access these documents and read about them yourself. Where Mello did like an actual interview with Jess Machado, like an actual interview. I mean, you can compare this, if you will, to like Marcy's hostage video that he did. Why? Why would you do this? Why would you get out there and give an interview days later? Why would Morrissey do that hostage video in August of 2023? Hubris? Exhibit B. Well, here's the interview report for Lindsay Gattani. The report is dated 12/18 of 2023. So this is before these alleged witness intimidation charges, which occurred on December 23rd. So on the 18th of December, Lindsay Gattani was interviewed by none other than Brian Tully. Narrative begins on the following page. Oh, this will be fun. Okay. On December 14th, 2023, and this is Tully's words, at 1300 hours, I, Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully, and Nelson D. Gouveia, an investigator for Special Prosecutor Kenneth Melo, interviewed Lindsay Gattani at her residence. Okay, she was interviewed the 14th. Oh, hi, Turtleboy. Turtleboy is watching. This is just a small preview. There's a lot more, and it gets much worse. How could it? How could it? I mean, I'm going to take your word for it because you have access to more documents than I do. But this is insane. This is insane. Lindsay stated she met Aiden Kearney in September 2023 after exchanging messages on Facebook Messenger. Facebook is good for nothing. I don't use Facebook, and it's good for nothing. And here's a perfect example of why Facebook is good for nothing. Lindsay stated she would communicate with two of Kearney's Facebook profiles, Clarence Woods Emerson and Aiden Kearney. Kearney and Lindsay met in person by following a Commonwealth v. Reed court date and went to her apartment. After that meeting, Lindsay and Kearney began having a romantic relationship, with Kearney staying over on Friday nights at her apartment. At the beginning of the relationship, is there anything good that's going to strike me in here? All right. It's public. At the beginning of their relationship, Kearney stated he was close with Karen Reed's family. He would later state to Lindsay that he speaks with Karen Reed every day. Lindsay showed me a screenshot that Kearney allegedly sent her showing multiple calls on a certain day that showed Karen Reed's signal audio in the call log. Kearney told Lindsay that there was an intermediary between Kearney and Reed, a woman by the name of Natalie. Kearney stated Natalie and Reed were angry with each other. Kearney then began talking to Reed directly. Lindsay stated Kearney runs everything by Karen, meaning all the blog posts and social media content is approved by Reed before Kearney publishing. Kearney described Reed as difficult, controlling, and gets irritated with him. Lindsay stated Kearney showed her material relevant to the investigation of the homicide of John O'Keefe, including the 911 call and cruiser video footage before it was, quote, leaked on social media. Lindsay stated Kearney and Reed communicate using the Signal app because it's encrypted. Lindsay described one instance where Reed controlled what Kearney would publish. Kearney wanted to release the Canton police cruiser video footage that he had obtained from Reed. Kearney asked Reed if he could publish the video on his Turtleboy platform. Lindsay stated Reed said no to the request. Talk about like double, triple hearsay, first of all. And second of all, it looks like they only went to interview her because they were trying to prove a case of collusion or conspiracy between Karen Reed and Aiden Kearney, which, as we saw, was unsuccessful. Lindsay stated Reed said no to the request. Kearney was frustrated and contacted one of Reed's defense attorneys, Alan Jackson. Jackson approved the release of the video. Reed later found out about Kearney going to Jackson and was angry. Lindsay stated different sources of financial benefit for Kearney and his partners. Lindsay described she attended a Halloween party held by Kearney. On the drive to the party, Kearney told Lindsay that he has a videographer, Richie, unknown last name, who has been following him around in anticipation of creating a documentary. Kearney stated Alan Jackson might be paying Richie directly. She described the arrangement as Richie being hired as part of the Reed's defense team. Notice that in the letters also, they're asking for anything that any of these people were promised in exchange for their testimonies or their witness statements or things like that. Lindsay stated Lindsay stated Kearney is doing well with donations. Lindsay recalled several instances where Kearney received cash at different events. She stated he received $1,500 at an event at a drive-in movie theater. Kearney has alluded to the fact that he did not pay for a Lexus SUV he recently acquired. Kearney made a statement similar to, if my frugal mother ever found out I paid for the Lexus, she would be mad. And even if I didn't pay for it, what's wrong with that? I think it's since been proven that he actually, in fact, did buy his own Lexus. So I don't know. Lindsay stated she believed the Lexus was purchased from a dealership in Rhode Island. Lindsay stated Kearney told her that he never pays taxes. Lindsay stated Kearney was frustrated by comments on social media that people thought he did not want any more protests in Canton. He stated to Lindsay that he wanted people to protest. Lindsay stated that the 9 people recently charged with witness intimidation stemming from protests outside D&E Pizza in Canton was directed by Kearney. Lindsay stated Kearney instructed the group to go to D&E because he could not go. Kearney stated it was good that additional people were charged with witness intimidation in addition to him because it took the heat off of him. But Kearney stated he would not raise any funds for their defense. Lindsay recalled Kearney telling her 2 of the Rocco's defendants had received a quote from a defense attorney for $7,000. Kearney stated that was too much. When Kearney discussed the quote with Karen Reed, they got into an argument with Karen, stating that the Rocco's should spend money to get the Rocco's should spend the money to get a good attorney. Lindsay stated, how long is this thing? My God, they spent a long time on this. Okay. Lindsay stated that she was told by Kearney that Reed's attorneys were working with the U.S. Attorney's Office, specifically acting U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts, Josh Levy. Kearney would talk a lot about the federal grand jury and Levy. Kearney stated he is confident that Norfolk District Attorney Michael Morrissey is the target of the investigation. Lindsay stated Karen Reed was interviewed by federal law enforcement, and the U.S. Attorney's Office told Reed that DA Morrissey was the target. She stated Levy had told Reed's attorneys about who had testified in an ongoing federal grand jury and the statements made to the grand jury by witnesses. Lindsay stated just before a story released by Fox 25 about letters Norfolk District Attorney Michael Morrissey sent to the U.S. Attorney's Office, story aired December 5th, Josh Levy contacted Reed's defense attorneys requesting a conference call. During the call, Levy asked her attorneys, any chance the trial can be moved? And requested the attorneys file a motion to reschedule Reed's trial in Norfolk Superior Court, which is scheduled for March of 2024. Levy also asked Reed's attorneys to send him phone records of Jen McCabe they had in their possession or might be receiving shortly. Levy asked Reed's attorneys that if contacted by the media, Reed's attorneys should say they, the USAO and Reed attorneys, are not working together. Lindsay stated that Kearney records all of his phone conversations. She recalled one blog post where Kearney wrote about a phone call he had with Lucky Loughran. In the blog post, he stated he has a photographic memory while describing how he can recall facts from a conversation. Lindsay stated Kearney recorded the conversation with Loughran and another phone call with Stephen Scanlon without consent. Lindsay stated following a court date Kearney had at Norfolk Superior Court, she met him at Fusion in Dedham Square. Present was Kearney's attorney, Timothy Bradel, and Kearney's videographer, Richie. During the conversation, Kearney and Bradel discussed Kearney's cell phones that were seized by investigators. Kearney asked what would happen if he had an illegal recording on the phone call, illegal recording of the phone call with Lucky Loughran on his cell phone. During the same conversation, Lindsay asked Bradel why he agreed to represent Kearney. Bradel stated he wanted to defend the First Amendment. Bradel went on to say that he recently was at a courthouse and ran into a buddy who's an attorney. The buddy told Bradel that evidence exists that proves that Karen Reed is 100% guilty of murder, but the evidence is inadmissible in court. When Bradel made this statement, Kearney became upset and began talking over Bradel. Kearney told Lindsay on several occasions that he might flee the area. He mentioned he has lots of cash and would throw his phone away. Kearney stated, I'm going to disappear. Lindsay discussed an upcoming rally in Canton on December 18th. She stated the rally is being organized by a woman with the first name Deanna, who's close to Kearney. When Kearney learned Deanna had met with Canton Police Chief Helena Rafferty before the rally, he became mad. Exhibit C. It's like really bad fan fiction. Hold on a second. I just got to see how much more there is of this. This is crazy. All right. Exhibit. What are we up to now? Exhibit C. Wine Yogi thanking me for keeping it real on a Sunday. Judge knew about this, yet set the next hearing for December. Yeah. Yeah. It seems that way, doesn't it? Back to the docks. This is the police report stemming from the incident of December 23rd, which nobody called 911 about, but Tully took it upon himself to make a call, or he's making the report. December 24th, 2023, interview of Lindsay Gattani regarding a past assault taken by Brian Tully. The victim is Lindsay Gattani. And here's the narrative in this Massachusetts State Police report. The interview. On December 22nd, 2023, I, Detective Brian Tully, served Lindsay Gattani with a summons to appear before the grand jury. What grand jury? The grand jury? The grand jury that already concluded, or the grand jury that was going to result as a result of this incident? The fake grand jury, the grand jury that was already done, or the one that wasn't convened yet, or the one that for which the incident did not even yet happen? That's a big problem, in my opinion. Big problem. The service occurred at her apartment. On December 23rd, 2023, at approximately 10:30 p.m., I received a phone call from Special Agent. No, he's not a special agent. He's a special prosecutor, Ken Melo. 10:30 p.m. Melo on the bad phone to Tully. He stated he received a call from Lindsay Gattani, who told him that Aiden Kearney was at her apartment. Ken then forwarded the phone call to me because, no need for formal introductions. We're just going to call him Ken. I'm just Ken. Oh, yeah, that Barbie song could apply to him, right? He's just Ken. He's just Ken. Wow. Ken then forwarded the phone call to me. Oh, he didn't really forward the phone call to you. He patched you in so you guys could have a three-way phone call, a conference call, we used to call it, or, a party line. During the call, I could not understand anything being said as the voices were muffled. After several minutes, the call was ended. Oh, so he couldn't hear anything because she was hiding in the bathroom? At 10:48 p.m., Lindsay sent me the following text message. Oh, so Lindsay is texting Tully? Ken said to call you now, but I can't. How does she have Tully's cell phone number that she can text him? Tully and Mulder. Who wrote this? Tully wrote this. Look. I, Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully. Because now he's just calling her Lindsay, and he's just Ken. Ken said to call you, but I can't now. He's knocking on the bathroom door. I have to go back out. Please don't text or call and tell Ken not to because he wants to see my phone. I'm deleting our calls and texts right now. Don't respond until you hear from me, please. Oh my God. So this is all in an official police report written by Tully. This is not speculation or conjecture or rumor or theory. It's in the freaking police report that Tully wrote. Wow. Lindsay and I spoke over the telephone on the morning of December 24th of 2023. Happy Christmas Eve, everyone. She stated 2 nights prior, She spoke with Kearney on Facebook Messenger. Kearney became aware of the summons and wanted to come over to discuss this, but his attorney, Timothy Bradel, told him, I can't talk to you. Lindsay later noticed Kearney removed her as a friend on his social media accounts. Oh my God. She was unfriended. I am telling you, Facebook is good for nothing. Once you remove Facebook from your life will be much better, in my opinion. She was unfriended. Is that what caused this whole thing to spiral? The unfriending. Kearney stated he figured out she was talking with Kate Peters. I think it's Kate Peter. So again, the misspelling continues of witnesses, right? It's not Catherine, it's Kate. No formal introductions needed, folks. And made vaguely threatening statements. Kearney stated he knew about Lindsay's parents by stating, I know a lot more than you think. What about Lindsay's parents? I don't know anything more than that. I don't know anything about Lindsay's parents. He sent her a link to probate court documents involving her parents and visitation with Lindsay's children. Kearney was threatening Lindsay by potentially releasing the documents. Kearney wanted Lindsay to admit to talking with Kate. Kearney told Lindsay he would get her and pay for an attorney. He stated he would talk to the attorney first so that the attorney could work with his attorney. Lindsay stated Kearney called the previous day, December 23rd, to plan a visit by him to her apartment. When he showed up, they went to a conference room off of her apartment building's lobby. Kearney had a notebook and stated that the police were using her. He stated, I feel bad for you and show me everything on your phone. He then stated, if you don't give me your phone, I will put you on the stand and make sure my attorney will destroy you, and insinuated the topics would be her prior drug use and children. So he insinuated that, but he didn't actually say that. He stated she would not be able to go out in public, and the narrative will be in the public. Kearney referenced the probate court documents. He stated, I have a friend that has a mass courts login, and I have all the affidavits. He then showed her the documents on his phone. He stated, I'm going to bring you to the FBI. Lindsay stated she went into the bathroom to stall the interaction because Kearney was upset. When she came out of the bathroom, they decided to go to her apartment. Lindsay stated they sat on the couch and she attempted to stall, showing Kearney her cell phone. Kearney stated, you have exactly 2 minutes to show me your phone. If you don't show me, my lawyer will destroy you. Lindsay then showed Kearney her text messages with Kate Peters. Lindsay stated Kearney kept grabbing her cell phone out of her hand. Kearney took handwritten notes about the contents of Lindsay's phone. Kearney stated, I'm proud of you. You can destroy your phone and the police will not do anything about it. Lindsay stated her and Kearney got into an argument when Kearney was about to leave. Lindsay stated Kearney left the room. Lindsay saw Kearney's notebook nearby, removed all the pages with the notes about her phone, and placed the pages under her shirt. When Kearney returned to the room, he noticed the pages were removed and grabbed Lindsay's wrist and arm to retrieve the papers. Lindsay stated she yelled and Kearney pushed her onto the couch. Kearney began to yell and Lindsay told him to leave. Kearney responded he would not and refused to leave. Okay, so that's the alleged assault, which they did not indict him for, was the pushing onto the couch and the grabbing of the wrist. Kearney began to yell and Lindsay told him to leave. Kearney responded he would not and refused to leave. Lindsay stated Kearney left at approximately 5 a.m. I told Lindsay that she needed to call the Medfield Police Department to report the incident. Lindsay was hesitant and the phone call ended. I then called the Medfield Police Department to report what Lindsay stated and asked that they follow up. Well, there's a lot, so much to unpack. But it was the unfriending of Facebook that must have been the catalyst for this whole entire mishigas. Seems to me. like Melo is a witness. Seems to me like he should voluntarily recuse before that motion has to be decided. And seems to me that these next couple of court dates might be really interesting. The witnesses. I mean, the discovery alone. Romy, so wait, Lindsay deleted all her texts except the text that said she was deleting her text. Yeah, sounds that way, Romy. My head is spinning from just listening to it. Hi, Nick Starro. Thanks for coming in with the super chat. Did you see the latest in the Delphi case? Prosecution wants to exclude a defense tool mark expert, an expert that was first hired by the prosecution. I am not covering the Delphi case yet. It's a hard one to just jump right into because although I covered it on other channels with other creators, it's I did not see it. But thanks for pointing it out. Are you telling me that I should take a look? Thanks, Nick. I appreciate you. This is wild. This is wild and crazy. Wild and crazy guys. Remember the wild and crazy guys? Anybody watch the SNL season premiere last night? It wasn't really that funny. Facebook, Carly says, Facebook caused World War II. No joke. Yeah, wow, just wow. Angel says they arrested him and put Turtleboy in jail on a bogus witness intimidation case. There wasn't a witness. Shows how the police wanted him out of the way for exposing them. I mean, from a brief glance of all of these documents, certainly looks that way. Hedgehogs in Space. Is this high school, middle school, or a telenovela drama? Pick one. It's hard to pick just one, isn't it? Where do we go from here? Well, I'll tell you where we go from here. There's a motion to suppress for unreasonable delay. And we heard about that in court the other day. And a couple of minutes here. So let's look at that because this was filed. This was filed after these two letters were sent. On the 25th of September. So it was the day before the hearing, which was the 26th. This was filed the 25th. I'm not going to read the whole entire thing to you, but let's just take a quick look, see what information we can glean because I have not looked at it yet. It's not highlighted or anything, but this was the motion that they were referring to for unreasonable. The motion to suppress everything that was found or maybe found. Maybe they haven't even done it yet. Any searching of the computer and telecommunications devices for unreasonable delay with the memorandum incorporated herein. So this is a motion made because the DA or special DA or whatever they're calling him, law enforcement, has been in possession of Aidan Kearney's devices for almost a year. And therefore, because they have not returned the devices or done what they needed to do with the devices, they think that everything should be suppressed. Here's the background. So the relief requested is that the search of his computer and telecommunications devices and any statements made by defendant in relation to thereto be restrained, that any evidence derived be suppressed, and that any further searches be barred for unreasonable delay. Here's the background. Mr. Kearney is an investigative journalist who owns, reports from, and operates a number of news outlets that broadcast over the internet through YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and his own websites and web pages. He live streams news, investigates serious matters of public concern, and often breaks stories before viewers' very eyes live on air. He offers pointed and unapologetic commentary to his viewers, which number in six figures and cumulatively reach into the millions. He protests, urges boycotts, engages in political hyperbole, satire, rhetorical confrontation, rallies his supporters in the field, chases down witnesses and investigative targets wherever they may be found, petitions the government for redress, and exposes corruption by government officials. He practices advocacy journalism and provides in-depth, well-sourced factual reporting, often accompanied by a call to action for justice and truth. Then it goes on to say that he's recently focused his investigative reporting on the case of Karen Read. And we know all about those charges and why he believes that Karen Read was framed. Some of the devices seized herein contain anonymous tips and journalist source information on these very topics, and information on the very same state troopers investigating him herein. He's been deprived of this information for 11 months in the course of the Read case and has been severely hindered in being able to report and utilize the information garnered. Okay, this section is called Warrant History and Facts Supporting Unreasonable Delay. On October 6, 2023, the Commonwealth sought 3 warrants to search Mr. Kearney's home, car, and person to seize any and all communication devices they came across. The Superior Court, Judge Krupp, allowed the warrants in the usual ex parte manner, and they were executed on October 11th, 2023. After the arrest of Mr. Kearney on the instant charges at his child's bus stop that morning. The police seized a plethora of electronic devices from Mr. Kearney's home under the authority to seize them granted in the aforementioned search warrants. Okay, so they were seized on October 11th, 2023, which is almost exactly 1 year ago. And they go on to talk about the search warrants. It's been over 11 months since the seizure of Mr. Kearney's devices. Commonwealth's present counsel recently pledged in open court and in its taint team proposal served August 12th, 2024, that warrants would be sought after the taint team litigation. There's no reason to further delay the promised warrant or warrants even further pending a taint team. In fact, there's no reason to waste more time and taxpayer money on screening teams, as the Commonwealth's extraordinary delay herein is fatal to their intentions to go through Mr. Kearney's devices at this late juncture. So they didn't go through the devices at all yet? They've had them for almost a year? Mr. Kearney did not consent to any seizures. Mr. Kearney, through counsel, has also requested several times for the return of his devices for the data thereon, and has been categorically denied, or as recently presented 10 months late with unreasonable demands for concessions in return for the data at some future date. In the course of the Commonwealth's seizure of investigative journalist Kearney's electronic devices, the tools of his trade, as it were, undersigned defense counsel has made several overtures to the Commonwealth to obtain relief for Mr. Kearney almost a year ago, October 19th of 2023. We told them they should get a taint team, and that is the letter from Tim Bradle. Commonwealth replied that same evening. So this is going back for like a year. They've had these devices. They've been put on notice to get a taint team, and they haven't done a damn thing about it. And the motion goes on. I'm not going to read all, however many pages this is to you, 12 pages. But the argument is where a citizen's property is seized, the Fourth Amendment and Article 14 require the Commonwealth to act without undue delay. And they go on to argue that this delay is way too long. It's been almost a year, WTF. The length of the delay is extraordinary. I think this is one of the only things we heard argued in open court. And he says here, the defense spoon-fed the law on taint teams to the Commonwealth via email and was erroneously rebuffed. The Commonwealth rejected multiple requests for at least the data which was discoverable under Rule 14 and due months ago at or before the pretrial conference under Rule 14. So basically, they've done nothing. The Commonwealth has done nothing. Give us everything back. And the conclusion here is, where the Commonwealth has delayed over 300 days in seeking its pledged warrant, delayed by wrongfully opposing a taint team for many months, delayed by depriving the defendant of the data in the seized property, delayed over 300 days regardless of the specific circumstances, and engaged in all the following wrongful and dilatory conduct. The defendant respectfully moves the court suppress the statements and evidence seized due to unreasonable delay and any further illegal fruits acquired therefrom. The fruits of the poisonous tree is what they call that when you have an improper warrant and you search things and you get evidence that shouldn't have been obtained in the first place. That's the fruits of the poisonous tree. So this motion, is this something that's going to be heard in the future? Now my notes are all over the place. I'll rely on you. Motion to suppress. Yeah, that's the one that's going to be held on December 2nd. So there's still much more going on here, but go to the chat for a second and get some thoughts and concerns from you before we wrap for the afternoon and you can all go watch football. Didn't worry about a search warrant for Karen Reed's phone. They have 100% look through Aiden's devices, you think? KYWYMY. LA says, and the judge just lets the DA continually kick the can down the road. Debbie says it's scary they get away with all this BS. Amanda says there should be zero question of conspiracy to frame at this point. I can't wait to see those phone records. Madam Roz says they surveilled his children's bus for several days and purposely converged on him so the children could see it. Scott says the DA and MSP have been busy trying to re-jail Turtleboy and somehow pressure citizens into saying Turtleboy sent me. Yeah, a taint team is a special team. Thanks, Lawnerd Amber. Taint team is a special team of lawyers, or they're supposed to be impartial, who scrubs communication to remove attorney-client privilege communications and sometimes any other communications that are not relevant to the case at bar or the case at bar. That is what a taint team is. I have questions. It says the Commonwealth keeps overestimating their own power to silence and underestimating the will and anger of their victims. They're about to find out. This is crazy, and it could mean big trouble for more than a few people and lawyers and law enforcement, and remains to be seen. But according to Aiden Kearney, who was in the chat before, this is the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much more that is so much worse. So I'll be on top of it for you. We'll cover the next hearing that is coming up. The one for this case, I think, is December 2nd. Who knows what'll happen before then? Who knows what additional papers I can get my hands on before that. If you guys are interested in covering this case, and it seems like you are because there's over 4,000 of you here right now, if you wouldn't mind smashing that like button, it really helps the algorithm. Whatever other YouTube-ish type things YouTube likes, do the things and stuff so that we can continue to bring you the stories that the internet and YouTube doesn't always like us to talk about. But we're here to talk about it because that's what we do here. We're a voice for the voiceless so many times. Thank you, Hedgehog in Space, for another excellent scream. Glad you caught me live. I'm glad you caught me live too. There's more things we need to catch up on Karen Reed. I want to separate that into a separate stream. So I'm going to perhaps do it later tonight. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow, maybe during the day. We need something to do on a Monday. We got to go over the answer from CF McCarthy's. We need to go over some things that Olivia posted on Twitter with regard to Ian Whiffen, perhaps, and the extraction of data and such things like as that. Thanks, Misadventurous Bookmouse. Search warrants obtained under false pretenses. We'll see. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you to my moderators who have been so amazing today and keeping it classy, the chat, which is always hard when we cover anything that has to do with Norfolk, Massachusetts for some reason. Smash the like button on your way out. Thank the moderators on your way out. Thank you to my members, channel members, viewers, replay viewers, and even if you're a hate viewer, just smash the like button on your way out. so that we can get this story out there. It is worldwide now. And, just as I always say, remember, be cool, be classy. It's not hard. It is so not hard. Stay off of Facebook. Peace. I'll see all you guys later.